Est-ce qu'on peut commencer maintenant avec l'approbation de l'ordre du jour? Est-ce que vous avez quelque chose à ajouter, modification à proposer?
J'ai une question sur le point.
Je pense qu'on commence avec M. Hickey.
Thank you. I have a point of privilege this afternoon.
We're talking about the order, the ordre du jour maintenant.
It's a point of privilege that should be addressed before approving the agenda.
Well, I'll decide that. Tell me what it is and we'll decide whether it's now or later.
Well, the point of privilege, Mr. Chair, is that I have received discriminatory, intimidating, and defamatory remarks directed toward me at the last meeting of the Senate. These were made by a professor and vice dean, Mr. Denis Vachon, and I do not feel comfortable continuing the Senate meeting until Mr. Vachon provides an apology.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to deal with this at this point, so I'm going to put it over. In fact, we have an item called Treatment of Student Senators. It's item 13B on the agenda, and I think that's the proper place to deal with this.
Mr. Chair, this is a matter of treatment of student senators, and it is not legitimate to leave this matter to the very end of the meeting today. This is a matter of fundamental importance. This has to do with respect of the Senate's members, respect of students, and I request an apology from Mr. Vachon at this time, before we go into the meeting.
Mr. Vachon, are you prepared to deal with this at this moment?
Monsieur le Président, je serais prêt à consentir.
It's not the tradition of the Senate to stand. This is an informal body. Please feel free to sit down as you speak.
Merci,
Vous pouvez rester
Merci.
asseoir pour votre intervention. Merci.
Merci. J'acquiescerai à volonté dans la mesure où M. Hickey lui-même demandait des excuses au Sénat pour son comportement inapproprié lors de la dernière réunion du Sénat.
I'm Anglophone. Could you please, or someone perhaps provide a translation?
No.
Mr. Chair,
You've been asked whether you're prepared to apologize for your behavior at the last meeting of the Senate.
Mr. Chair, my point of privilege regards my rights as a senator, the treatment of me as a student here, to have received respectful treatment from other members of the Senate. I have asked for an apology from Mr. Vachon. I did not understand what Mr. Vachon stated.
I just told you.
Could you please repeat that then?
I told you that Mr. Vachon wants to know if you're prepared to apologize for your behavior at the last Senate meeting.
I'm asking for an apology from Mr. Vachon. At the last Senate meeting, I have other things to say about the last Senate meeting that I'll raise during the minutes. I made a legitimate protest over a breach of a fundamental and central Senate policy at the last Senate meeting. And Mr. Vachon yelled at me, said, "Are you sick in the head?" in front of the Senate, in front of the Senate body at a Senate meeting. I find this highly disrespectful, and I hope that we could have this corrected now before we go into future Senate work so that it can be put behind us.
Well, I wasn't here at the last Senate meeting, but according to all reports, it was very difficult to conduct the meeting at all because of the way you behaved yourself. I gather Professor Vachon would like to know if you're prepared to apologize for your conduct before he deals with your request that he apologize for his. Are you prepared to answer that question?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to know if you're now making accusations directed toward me.
I'm asking you a question.
Are you now, Mr. Chair, stating to the Senate something about my behavior?
I'm asking you whether you're prepared to apologize as requested by Mr. Vachon.
Mr. Chairman, you have just reported to the Senate that it appears to me that you have reported statements about my conduct at the last meeting when you weren't there present yourself. I made a legitimate protest. The Student Federation of the University of Ottawa has in fact sent a letter to all Senate members stating that Mr. Francois Houle, then chairman's decision to unilaterally cut the camera and cut all filming of the Senate was egregious, highly concerning, and a cause for students to bring their own cameras and film subsequent Senate meetings if this action continued. If ever there was a time to protest, Mr. Chair, it was at the last Senate meeting. And what did I receive? I received comments from a vice dean, from a professor, insinuating that I was sick in the head, angrily. It was intimidating. I should not be subject to this kind of treatment, Mr. Chair. This is why I've asked for an apology from Mr. Vachon.
I've simply asked the question. I gather that Mr. Vachon wants to know before he deals with your request whether you're prepared to apologize for your conduct at the last Senate meeting. Are you prepared to answer that question?
Mr. Chairman, I stand by my rightful protest at the last Senate meeting, and I think that should be clear to you.
La réponse est non, apparemment, M. Vachon. Alors,
so, does this mean that you are refusing to apologize, Mr. Chair? Would you please ask Mr. Vachon if this is an indication that he is refusing to apologize?
Je serais prêt à admettre un langage inapproprié dans la mesure où M. Hickey lui-même admet avoir s'être conduit de manière inappropriée.
Gary, do you have something to say?
I think I can wait until we deal with the minutes, but I have a question about the agenda.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing here, Mr. Chairman, is that a Senate member, a vice dean rather, and a professor with a significantly higher position of power within the institution is holding back an apology for a personal, direct, and defamatory attack against a student in an attempt to pressure a student to abandon a legitimate protest over a central key policy, which is the Senate's policy on video recording. This appears to me to be a kind of coercion. I find this highly unacceptable. This is aggravating. The most unfortunate experience that I had at the last meeting of the Senate. And I request you, Mr. Chair, to ask the senator to apologize so that we can move on and leave this behind us.
No, I don't intend to do that, Mr. Hickey. I wasn't here last time, as you observed yourself. I have only your statement for what happened, and so I'm not in a position to do that.